the Big Rock years really, God really developed our little family in a lot of great ways. Uh, the senior pastor there, Pastor Ken, was a great friend, great confidant, had the years of experience that he and Mama Joy could really speak into our lives, loved our kids. Um, we did three different kinds of trips with teens, and I want to describe each different kind, give you the advantages and disadvantages of each and how God worked in those trips. Um, gonna save probably the best for last. First kind of trips we did were Christian festival or youth retreat kind of trips. There was one in Michigan called Fire Up that we went to for several years on the campus of Northern Michigan University, and it was great. We there was lots of different music. There was seminars. There was this one amazing teacher, and the kids were kind of bored to tears with her, but I thought she was fantastic. She knew her Bible just inside and out, and she'd be speaking, and as she was saying something, it would remind her of another place in the Bible, and it wasn't rabbit trailing. It was God's Holy Spirit leading her through the Bible, just drawing these scriptures out. And I don't know how much our kids got out of it, but man, I loved it. I thought it was great. Usually, when we went to those, we slept in a local church, like on the floor. Um, Took air mattresses along. Kind of slept with one eye open to make sure the kids were behaving, so didn't get a lot of sleep during that. Um, One of the big ones we went to was Ichthus down at Asbury Seminary, where I graduated from. It was a 14-hour trip, and the one year we went, it was Mudfest. There was literally clay mud like this thick. They'd had tons of rain before we got there. We didn't even get to camp or pitch our tents or anything. We slept in the basement of a church, and it was it was disgustingly muddy, and we had to hike a mile just to get to the campground. But um, taking communion with 25,000 other humans and in this huge field and having it be absolutely silent as we took the elements together was an amazing thing. So we did a lot of those youth festivals. We had to fundraise to go. There was a lot of excitement, um, a lot of great speakers, but not sure. In my mind, I didn't see a lot of results in kids' lives, but that might not be fair. If you talk to some of the kids, they might go, "Yeah, oh, that was so great. That changed my life." So that was the first kind of trip. Uh, the second kind of trip that we did with kids, especially in Michigan, but we've done it all along, are long weekend canoe trips, especially when I was youth and children's pastor and I'm responsible for speaking on Sunday mornings. We went canoeing down the Two Hearted River, down the Indian River. We would stay overnight. I remember one trip, and of course, you always have kids that race in canoes, which is great. Tires them out, and they get out there and go. And we had a bunch of kids racing. We usually stayed in the back and kind of helped stragglers along. Well, our seniors got way out ahead, and they got to this log jam where you had to carry your canoes over. And when they got there, they realized there was a lot of new kids on the trip that would have no idea how to do it. So they went back a little bit. Actually, they stayed right there and they helped the kids traverse the log jam, and they got all the kids over before they went back to their racing, and I thought that's tremendous. Um, really, just a lot of great conversations around the campfire. We did uh, some team building games that were kind of crazy, the Spider's Web and different ones, and I still remember. And at the Indian River, out in the woods, there was a 40-foot high crucifix. I remember sitting under that crucifix with some kids and just talking about their lives, their home lives, where they wanted to see the Lord help them, the struggles that they had. We probably talked there for half an hour, literally at the feet of Jesus on this crucifix. You can't make that stuff up. It was just a tremendous experience. Camping trips generally cost less than the festival ones, and there seemed to be more results. Kids came out of these trips bonded to each other, talking more about spiritual things, or at least being honest with each other. Uh, Fantastic experience. I think bang for the buck for a youth pastor canoe trip is the best thing. God can get right in the middle of that. We had people praying for us for safety and spiritual development on those trips. The last kind of trips that we did, which could literally be life changing, were missions trips. I mentioned this one that's coming up in 20 years that we took to Tijuana. We took kids from the country into the mean streets of Chicago through YouthWorks. Uh, Way out of their element. And took kids to South Dakota to an Indian reservation, which was experiencing stuff they had just, and I had never experienced before. They got to see the impact of ministries that were way different in local settings. I remember after the Tijuana trip, the kids that went on it, as we were coming home, flying home, and you have to fundraise a boatload to go on these trips. Most of them are fairly expensive. But I remember the kids saying, we've got to do some different stuff. We've got to do stuff in our own community. If these guys can be doing all this great stuff down in Mexico, we've got to be doing stuff. And so when we got back, I set the kids up talking to our local board, and they developed a couple ministries and really pitched it, and the church got behind it. These kids' lives were really touched by this trip. And the Lord just allowed myself and Sarah and I, and sometimes our kids even, to be right in the middle of all of that stuff that was going on. What a powerful blessing we enjoyed doing youth and children's work.